me queda ahora por recordar a todos los panelistas de hoy que tienen que estar presentes en el panel en el debate con los participantes y también en el diálogo con los asistentes, ¿no? Porque son los bloques participativos donde vamos a atender las preguntas que nos han llegado desde el público participante, ¿no? El público participante va a recibir contestación a sus preguntas y plantear sus preguntas en el diálogo con los asistentes. Es un pequeño cambio. Tanto las preguntas sobre las ponencias concretas como las preguntas más generales sobre el desarrollo urbano, metropolitano y la gobernanza metropolitana, vamos a atender en el diálogo con los asistentes, y será moderado por el equipo de la cátedra y preferentemente presentad vuestras preguntas vía chat. Con esto doy ahora el inicio al debate con los participantes, ¿no? Que veo aquí Reinhard, Patricia, Thomas Kiewit, Axel Briebs y Alessandro. Alessandro, ¿dónde está? Acabo de decir, él lo sabe, vamos a esperar. Yo sugiero ahora unos 3 o 5.
Hello, here is Axel again. Hello.
Alessandro. Hallo? Ja, hallo, Axel.
Hallo?
Ja, hörst du mich? You are hearing me, Axel?
Hallo. I was out, but I'm now connected again, but the video has to switch on.
Thomas is connected to Alessandro. You are here.
Yes, I'm here.
You are here.
I'm here, yes.
Thomas, you are here. Yes, perfect.
Yes, can hear you, loud and clear.
Yes, so we can start. No?
Hello, Andreas. Hello, Andreas. Andreas,
Yeah.
that is Axel talking. I had no connection at time, but I'm now connected again, but the video is not working. Perhaps your technique can put on the video again, because I cannot do it.
Yes, I will phone them. Thank you. Wait, please.
But I can hear all of you.
Yes, you have sound, but without image. No? Se lo voy a decir, ¿vale?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, you have activated your camera.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was because I was out.
Patricia.
For me, it's the same problem. I cannot put it on because it has been done.
They tell me that only you have to activate your camera.
Yes, but if now it's working.
Yes, so we can begin. So el primer bloque de este debate con vosotros se centra en 2 preguntas que os he enviado ya previamente, hace creo que 2 semanas. Son preguntas a las que pido a vosotros una contestación. El turno de palabra me parece quizás siguiendo con el programa. Primero Axel, luego Tomás, Reinhard, Patricia y después Alessandro, ¿no? Estas preguntas son 2. Una se refiere a los aspectos institucionales. Si pensáis en las estructuras organizativas de la gobernanza metropolitana y su funcionamiento, ¿cuáles han sido, a vuestro juicio, las mayores luces y las mayores sombras? ¿Y qué cosa qué aspecto, a vuestro juicio, precisaría un cambio o una profunda reforma? Esa es la primera pregunta. La segunda pregunta que se plantea es, entre las clásicas políticas metropolitanas, transporte, planificación territorial, promoción económica, por ejemplo, ¿cuál debería fortalecerse, tener una mayor prioridad en su región metropolitana? Y conectando con la triste realidad de la pandemia mundial que tenemos con el COVID-19, algunas ponencias ya han hecho referencias a esta cuestión. Os pregunto, ¿pensáis vosotros que se está produciendo un cambio en el ranking de las políticas metropolitanas clásicas? ¿Deberían integrarse o reforzarse nuevas políticas, otras políticas en la agenda metropolitana? Estas son las dos preguntas y invito a dar una contestación a ambas preguntas. Primero a Axel. Axel.
I'm very sorry, I could not hear anything because I got no translation. So I heard you talk, but I had no translation.
The first question is the second question. I sent it to you.
Yeah, yes, okay, but I have it, but I could not understand you.
Die erste Frage.
No, I know it. I know.
You know,
yes, I think the most shadow side of our institution is a kind of the financial structure. We are in a high degree dependent on the money of the municipalities. So formally, we have the right to define the contribution of the municipalities every year, but of course, every year it is discussion, because we have to take the money that the municipalities do not have. So I think this is a mistake. We tried it that time when we established the region, but the state parliament and the government did not make several financial structure for our regions. They wanted to have the same financial regulations as the counties have. They also depend on the money of the municipalities. But there are other regulations. I know an example from Denmark, in every case when they had the old structure. So there were direct taxes for the regional level too. And my clear opinion is that this is the largest mistake, and the region should have an own right to get taxes directly. So this is the question of the shadows of the regions. So on the other hand, what is good results? So I have to say that the regional council is willing to decide. And also in cases where there's one municipality or some municipalities who have problems with a regional regulation, so the council is willing to decide. We had the problem with windmills. You know, it is a lot of conflicts in Germany around new windmills. We made a concept. There were protests from some pressure groups in the region against new windmills, but the council, despite of people being in the room and crying and so on, the council decided. And so I think we are very lucky to have a strong democratic body willing to decide. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Axel, por tu respuesta clara y muy interesante. Las temáticas. Toca el turno de contestación ahora a Thomas Kiewicz.
Yes, you have been asking about what were the most problematic events in our history. So I totally agree with what Axel said. We have the same problem that we do not have own sources of financing. So we get all our money, the lion's share of the money comes from a levy. That means the municipalities have to pay for the region. And if you bear in mind that we have been established as a region by taking power away from the municipalities, and then again, we are taking away the money to work with those new competences. That's for a start, it's not a good situation. So we would be much better off with a own source of funding, with like a share of a tax or whatever, but not with a levy. A levy is not a good idea. But looking on the positive sides, I think there are many aspects that are really on the top of the political agenda that can be only solved in a proper way in a regional dimension. So if you look at the new Leipzig Charter that under the German EU presidency will be set in power within 2 weeks or so, they really put the focus that the European city can only prosper if you have the functional urban area in mind. And all the examples we have seen are really an approach to make the city, the medieval city, much bigger than it used to be within the city walls. So we, in fact, we come back to the old antique picture of the metropolis, that we have a core city and that we have the hinterland. And so I think for many of the nowadays problems, the regional scope is the really only level where you can address the most important problems. But again, you need the instruments and you need the funding to do so.
Yes. Yes. Muchas gracias, Tomás. Paso la palabra a Reinhard.
Start with the positive aspects. Our structure has a continuity. It is evolving now for more than 50 years. We have a wealth of information, data, and knowledge. As a result, the structure fits the needs very well. It is also very good that the political parties overcame their fundamental difference and cooperate in our region on this regional level. The administration is able to provide informed advice to our decision makers. Maybe there's a shortcoming. That shortcoming may be that our structure is too complicated, a bit complex, and it doesn't fit the NUTS system, the European system. This is something that does not seem to be very dramatic for the outside world, but for us as a department dealing very much with the European institutions, it is simply getting on my nerves that people from the Committee of the Regions fail to understand how we do it. And when somebody gives us the advice, well, overcome your political boundaries and construct a metropolitan region, well, read our publications, we have this. Now, what should be changed? I don't think there should be very much changed. Maybe the English motto applies, never change a winning team. At the moment it works well. Why should we change very much? What I'd like to see maybe is some kind of an implementation body. As I said in my presentation, planners make plans and wait for others to implement them. That works as far as profitable investments are concerned. It does not work well when it is about green infrastructure because, well, somebody from the private world would not have an interest to invest in this because this does not yield any revenue. We have this organization that cares about the regional park. This is all right, but this could be made very much more systematic. Some kind of well, implementation agency, Landespflegeverband, we call that sometimes in Germany.
Muchísimas gracias, Reinhard. Sí,
maybe the highest priority for the forthcoming policy. Now we are a planning authority and we should continue with what we can do best with spatial planning, and as opposed to the colleagues from the Stuttgart region and Hanover region, our task is limited, very much limited to spatial planning, and I think we should keep concentrating on this. It is impressive to see how many approaches, how many different approaches there are, but I don't think that would make much sense for us to try and imitate the Stuttgart or Hanover approach. Maybe in the long run, this could be an option, but this is nothing for the moment. The COVID crisis has implications. It has huge implications, but I do not know what is going on, what is happening in the long run. But I think we would better concentrate or try to even put more focus on the peri-urban parts of our metropolitan regions, because this is where people profited from in this COVID summer, when they were banned from traveling, when they had to spend their leisure time outside in the region, in our near region. And this is what happened, what worked very well in our region, and we should take care to keep this asset, which is very, very good, very valuable for us, as opposed to Paris or London, where you have to, well, you have the Hyde Park in London, but that's a bit not so much open space for these very millions of people who are living there. Well, now I'm finished. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Reinhard. Y pido la opinión a Patricia.
In the French case, the metropole do have own taxes, unlike in Germany, and have a lot of functions already, and there have just been reforms. So rather than changing a lot right now, I think there's more consolidation needed, an important issue is the relationship to municipalities. Just this point changed in Lyon due to the direct election. This, of course, is a positive aspect in sense of democratic legitimation, but it also changes quite a lot the leadership within the metropole and the role of mayors, because before it's unlike in Italy, it was not in the law that the mayor of the central city would be president of the municipal grouping, but this is common practice in many metropoles in France, that the council elects the mayor of the main city. That was the case in France in Lyon for decades also, but with this change is legally not possible anymore, because now it's jurisdiction and you cannot be president of this department-like structure and mayor at the same time. And also the number of mayors that are vice presidents has decreased a lot. So whereas before the mayors had a large role in decision making in this metropole, this is not the case anymore. So we have to see. This is just recent, this election, how they will organize in the future. And well, the obvious weak point, you already highlighted it also. Yes, is the small size of the metropole, that in fact is really only the core and not the city region as a whole. But I don't think it would be a solution just to enlarge the structure like it is now, because you have seen on the map that it's would be much more bigger, and right now the metropole is taking over many municipal tasks also. That is different to the German regions, where in fact it has not been the case to centralize so many tasks of the municipalities. And then at the same time the municipalities are so much smaller. So for example, in the field of planning, the carrying out of the urban development projects and the local land use plan, this is all done by the metropole. And then if this would be suddenly be so much bigger than it is now, you would then need some subspaces again. And then it would only be possible to do this enlargement against the will of the municipalities, because around Lyon there are many affluent smaller municipalities that would not be willing to give up their municipal groupings. So in the near future, I think it's rather important to seek to deepen the cooperation in concrete fields between these municipal groupings. And regarding policy fields, one thing that could be strengthened is regional transport, because the metropole is already responsible for tram and buses in the metro system, but the regional trains are managed by the région. And up to now, there are separate tickets for both, unlike in Hanover region. And even when taking the regional train within the metropole, you have to buy two tickets, and that certainly could be improved.
Muchas gracias, Patricia. Es un problema, ¿no? La falta de la integración tarifaria y de la incompatibilidad entre tickets, algo que fastidia directamente al ciudadano en su vida real, ¿no? Avanzar en el transporte regional para que haya una auténtica intermodalidad también en tarifas, precios, horarios, ¿no? Es muy importante, ¿no? Que también, Alessandro, ¿no? ¿Qué opinas? ¿Cuáles son tus ideas sobre las dos preguntas?
So first of all, the main shadow for us is that all the competencies of the municipalities are not changed except the urban planning competencies. So you can build a real metropolitan city in Italy if you don't change the municipality competencies, especially the competencies of the main municipality, Bologna in our case, the municipality of Bologna. But we have this first new competencies about urban planning. Now urban planning is assured. And as I show you before, we can make two really important plans: the mobility plan and also the territorial plan, that is like a land plan, land use plan, okay? So these are lights. But we need, as the colleague said before, something more about the implementation bodies. We need to have people that are concentrated about the implementation, about the realization of what we write in the plan, especially for the little municipalities, especially for all the metropolitan community. Our libraries in our offices are without enough projects. We need more projects. That comes from plans. Because if we don't have plan and projects, we risk to spend all the money, the federal money, the state money, or the European money, the fund that is coming in an improvised way. So in Italy, we have this main problem. We have to have more people dedicated to realize what the local authorities want to do about planning and about projects. Secondly, I'm not sure about what we have to do from the COVID-19, 19, yes, because I like very much what the colleague said, that carry on, and we made our plan during our lockdown in March, April, and May. In March, April, and May, we spent half of my time for the COVID-19 about my job, and half of my time to make a new plan for the next 20 years. And I'm very scared if all the public bodies decided to work for the emergency in only one way. We need to work not only for the emergency period, but also for the future, and especially about the environment, of course. In another shadow that we have in our metropolitan cities is that we don't have environmental competencies, and we don't have the direct elections. These two things are really a limit, in my opinion, in Italy. So we have quite strong competencies for mobility, as I told you, and for a territorial plan, but we need a council, deputy mayors stronger than the municipality mayors. Oh, okay, that's all.
Muchas gracias, Alessandro, por estas consideraciones interesantes. En general, también en relación con el COVID, quisiera destacar la vieja problemática que tiene la planificación territorial, ¿no? Los planes son de papel y aguantan las palabras, pero ¿dónde está la implementación? La puesta en práctica corresponde a otras políticas públicas sectoriales y a veces faltan proyectos de ejecución directa, de implementación directa sobre la base del propio plan territorial. Así te he entendido. Es un dilema que tú has señalado para Italia, pero yo creo que es una problemática clásica y general que sigue subsistiendo y hay que quizá fortalecer la capacidad de implementación desde la propia casa o desde el propio plan, ¿no? De la planificación territorial, ¿no? Pues no solamente preguntamos nosotros a vosotros, sino es aquí, en este seminario internacional, un buen momento de intercambio de experiencias entre vosotros, los panelistas. Os invito, y esto ya es de turno libre, de preguntaros mutuamente sobre vuestras experiencias, ¿no? Si tenéis, Alessandro, si tú tienes una pregunta sobre Hannover, Stuttgart, o Axel, tú quieres saber más quizás sobre Francia, etcétera, ¿no? En este sentido, creo que hay una oportunidad de preguntaros, interpelaros entre vosotros, ¿no? Sí, Alessandro.
Yeah, I have a question to my colleagues about the relationship that they have with the with the Länder for the German and with the state for the Lyon. What is the relationship with them? How they consider the regional cities, the metropolitan cities? They have a good consideration. They don't have a good consideration. Is a very fragile or weak relationship, or is a strong relationship? Which kind of relationship there is with the state and with the regions?
Well, maybe I can start. France, the relationship between the région and the métropole, in fact, is more kind of a concurrence because, well, despite the région have been strengthened, they are, yeah, still not so huge in terms of their budget is about the same than the one of the métropole, and both of them are responsible for economic development. The région for the rest, so to say, outside the métropole, and also in the field of spatial planning. Just recently, the région has been dotted with a document that is binding for the plans that are made by the municipal groupings. But they don't have so much experience with territorial planning. Before, they have been more working with regional development in the sense, for example, they are managing the structural funds and but they are also the way to help the different territories to implement their projects is that they make contracts between the région and the métropole and also the state and the métropole. So this means that the métropole kind of defines projects they want to pursue, and then the région and the state co-finances them. And regarding the national state, there is of course an important influence regarding large infrastructure projects like airports, train station, and so on, that has huge influence on those city regions. And so there are some decisions that are made at the national level without asking, so to say, and that then have an influence. And on the other hand, what is specific in France is that mayors of the large cities have high influence on national policies because yeah, this is a usual career path, so to say, that many prime ministers have been before mayors. So they are also quite active in influencing national policies.
Maybe I could answer the question if you want me to do so. Well, the relation between our region and the land government is better than it used to be when I started my job 30 years ago at this institution. 30 years ago, it was rather the policy of the land government not to have a strong region because they feared some kind of internal opposition within the land. But this has changed very much. Maybe I should explain that we are working on the basis of a law of the land. The land passes the law that is the basis for what we are doing. And this law is a bit complicated because it has a core of tasks that we have to do and has a frame of tasks that we can do or may do or that we are encouraged to do. And I think one of our strengths is that we maybe do more than the land expected, so that the land nowadays realizes that they do not have to fear us as an opposition or an opponent, but that we are well taking care of this powerhouse of the Land Hessen. And on this level of working, things are going on very well. Maybe you can take as an example that our European office, we do have a European office with 2 permanent representatives in Brussels. This is housed in the land representation. The Land Hessen has a big office block where their own officers are residing, and our team is also there. And there is a regular exchange between our colleagues and the Secretary of State for European Affairs. And this is a very good working relation. So at the moment, I think this is going on smoothly. The only thing that I think could be improved is the distribution of European funds. The land is, of course, responsible for that. And sometimes we feel that cohesion funds money goes into a territory that is carefully designed not to touch our region. Maybe because, of course, we do not really need subsidies, but in many respects, it would help that they took us a bit more seriously in this respect as far as European money is concerned. So far, for me, for that aspect.
I can continue if you want.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. In Lower Saxony, we have only two city regions. It's the Hanover region and the neighboring Brunswick region. And the Brunswick region has only two tasks. It's regional planning and public transport. And there was an initiative, a political initiative from the Parliament of Lower Saxony to strengthen this region. And the government was willing to do, but they did not succeed because there is another informal institution which is a problem for more urban regional cooperation. This is the Association of the Counties. I guess that Thomas knows similar positions. The counties, they try to yes, they always defend against too much new tasks for urban regions, because in normal cases, or in many cases, it's tasks from the counties, and they don't want that they are transferred to a regional institution. So in the Brunswick case, the politicians did not succeed because there was so much protest from this association of the counties. In our case, in the beginning, it was also a little bit mixed situation, but today we are accepted, and we have the funny situation that the region is both a member of this association of counties and the association of the big cities. So we play both roles, and that is a very good situation. So in reality, we have not many problems with the land government or parliament, but there is a general situation in Germany and also in Lower Saxony that the city regions are not very popular, because there is the idea to strengthen the rural areas, and there are always discussions about the flow of the money, whether it is more an advantage for the rural areas or the urban regions. And just now there seems to be a majority to strengthen the rural areas, and there's no real lobby for the city region, after my impression. In everyday life, the land has also the function of supervision of our work. So whether we are working in the framework of the laws, but this is a very formal procedure, so there is no problems. And also regarding planning, we have to make our planning inside framework of the land plan. It's the same in Frankfurt and in Stuttgart, but in our case, it is no problem. So the point is, is there more money for the rural areas in Lower Saxony or for the urban areas? And how much money do we get for our tasks? Because we got more and more tasks delegated from the land level. And for example, I did not mention it during the first question, we are also public health institution, so we need a lot of money for the crisis now, and that will be always be a discussion around public money in the next years. Thank you.
If you don't mind, I just can add what Axel already pointed out, that also in the state of Baden-Württemberg, we have a strong focus of all policymakers on the rural areas. So there is a significant lack of an urban policy in the state of Baden-Württemberg. And despite the situation that in Stuttgart region alone are 25% of the population of the land and 30% of the GDP located, no one really takes care of what's going on there from a land perspective. The positive thing is that they pretty much leave us alone, which is good. But we could, of course, use more money for the challenges we see in the urban areas. And we try to argue with the land that the functionality and the success of the urban areas, the urban core areas, is also a significant contribution to the well-being of the rural areas too. We have 1.1 million commuters coming into Stuttgart region from rural areas around us. That means alone via the income tax, we are transferring 4 billion euros every year from Stuttgart region into the neighboring rural areas. So we could use more support, but for the time being, we are quite fine that we have enough space to develop our own programs.
Todavía podéis continuar con vuestro diálogo entre vosotros. Si no hay más preguntas, decídmelo y vamos a dar entrada a las preguntas que hemos recibido del público.
I would like to ask a question to the Italian colleagues and maybe to you in Spain about these European networks. There's METREX. METREX is the European network for metropolitan regions. There's another network called Purple, a bit more specialized about the peri-urban parts of metropolitan regions. These networks do have this topic on their agendas, and we in Frankfurt are quite active within them, and I would like to get a feeling from the other colleagues, not really from Tobias Kiewit, because I know he is quite active in this, and Hannover is also quite active. The Germans are all members of METREX, but the others maybe could say a word about it.
Yeah, in our case, METREX, we know METREX very well. And the region of Emilia-Romagna is a member of METREX. And sometimes we help the region of Emilia-Romagna in that kind of job or work. But when I participated at last meetings, was quite interesting, but it's not so common for us to participate in the last years to METREX meetings. We can come back. We can come back, yeah.
¿Alguna pregunta más? Veo que no.
Just a question also. Yes, thank you. Just a question regarding the Italian regions. Is there a tendency whether the future of these metropolitan regions is a more integrative direction with more tasks or more money, or is it now a level where nothing is moving, so constant or stable situation, or is there also the idea for more integration in this metropolitan regions with own direct elected parliament, for example, and more tasks perhaps? I think it's interesting, this development of the last 2 decades, but the question is, how do you guess will be the future?
Yeah, that's true. In the future of the institutions in Italy are not clear, because in the last years, the last decades, they tried to change our institution, but it didn't work. So we don't have a real debate about the future of our institution. But for the metropolitan cities, the metropolitan city are in this moment quite in not a real debate, national debate, because there is a problem. The mayor of the metropolitan city is the same mayor of the main city. So when they are coordinated in one body in Rome, they usually speak as the mayor. They sometimes they speak as a mayor like of the metropolitan city. Sometimes they speak as a mayor of the municipality city, or the main municipality city. It's not so clear. And remember, they are elected by the people of the municipality city. So I think that in this moment, there is no debate for the future of our metropolitan city. But we have something new, that is how we manage the strategic plan and the strategic fund. I think that the metropolitan cities in Italy has demonstrated that they are able to manage strategic vision and strategic fund. For example, we had 3 kind of European national fund in this last years, about mobility and about renewable area, regeneration, urban policies, etc. And the metropolitan cities will be able to do better than the municipality cities, because we have the metropolitan city have the plans, have the strategic plan and the territorial plan, and the mobility plan. So there is quite a high level coherence of this relationship between plans and funds. There is a good relationship, better than the municipality level, better than that. So the future is, in my opinion, the future is this one. Is about the relationship between plans and how we manage the implementation of that plans. We are able to do it. The municipalities are not able, except some. But all the metropolitan cities are able to do it.
Thank you.
And sorry, there is no debate about the election of our government bodies. There is no debate in this moment.
But that's a mayor of the central city is also mayor of the metropolitan region. That is in the law.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We don't use the word region, because for us, region is like lander for you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. Thank you.
magnífico, estupendo el debate entre vosotros. Si no hay más munición a gastar, para decirlo así, demos ahora paso a la parte participativa, ¿no? Nos han escuchado en las últimas horas muchísimas personas, tal como veo en el número de participantes, y hemos recibido preguntas del público, de todas las personas o instituciones incluso inscritas, ¿no? Y paso para la contestación por vuestra parte estas preguntas a vosotros, y doy la bienvenida a Pilar Lloret, que es la secretaria de este evento internacional, que va a encargarse de la gestión de estas preguntas. Muchísimas gracias a todos vosotros, panelistas, por vuestra valiosa y muy interesante participación. Muchas gracias, ¿no? Y ahora toca a vosotros a contestar las preguntas que nos llegan al público. Pilar.
Bien, gracias, Andreas. Bien, la primera pregunta que nos ha llegado es de Javier Iturrino. Es para todos los ponentes. Si os parece, podéis ir contestando en función del orden que habéis seguido en el debate anterior. La pregunta versa sobre la movilidad activa sostenible en bicicleta y hace una serie de preguntas. La primera de ellas es qué actuaciones se están tomando en el ámbito metropolitano, si existen oficinas de gestión y promoción de las infraestructuras ciclistas y, por último, plantear si existen web o páginas web que se pueda consultar la cartografía sobre estas infraestructuras ciclistas. Bien, si queréis contestar siguiendo el orden anterior.
Andreas, posso rispondere io perché, sorry, can I answer because I don't have too much time?
Perfecto, sí, Alessandro, claro.
Muchas gracias. Okay, I show you before the two maps of our cycling mobility policies. So we have in our sustainable mobility plan of the metropolitan areas, everything about cycle mobility. So we just have a backbone of European corridor number 7 is called Ciclovia del Sole, Sun Route, that comes from Germany to the south of Europe. And we are the coordinator of the Italian project. So in that first important European corridor, there are from that starts all the mobility network about cycling in our provinces, in our metropolitan city. So if you go to our website, you will find everything, also the maps. And we have two kinds of maps: a map dedicated to the touristic interest and about mobility, cycle mobility, and maps dedicated to the ordinary trips, daily trips, to job, to work, to study, and etc.
Muy bien, muchas gracias, Alessandro. Si queréis el siguiente ponente que pueda intervenir o le apetezca hacer alguna aportación.
From Frankfurt.
I think it's my part now.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, okay. You can hear me? Okay.
Sí, perfecto.
So, in Hanover region, of course, sustainable mobility has a high importance, starting with public transport, which is very strong. But you asked especially the situation of bicycle transport. There we have inside the administration different responsibilities. So it's on the one hand, the everyday cycling, and on the other hand, the leisure cycling. We have a longer tradition already since the old days of the association that leisure ways for bicycles have a high priority. We have also maps about that, and special routes with special topics, for example, along a canal, which is very important in our regions, or something so along farms which are selling biological products, so special bicycle tours and so on. So thematic routes for leisure times. This is the one side. On the other side, we have a responsibility in another directorate for everyday cycling. It's more or less the bicycle paths along the roads. And there is a trend in the last years that it gets higher priority. Also the question of super cycle highways, it is just now a discussion, but we were very early on the regional level. At that time, there was not so much interest in the politics and also from other directorates. So now there was a lack of time, and now it is coming again. So in general, I would say the importance of bicycle transport is on the agenda. I can mention that I was the first chairman of the Association of Cycle-Friendly Municipalities in Germany. I was the founding chairman of this institution. So personally for me, it is very important. But and I was responsible for the leisure bicycle paths and routes. But my impression now from outside, I'm, as you know, not longer responsible. So my impression is that there is also a higher priority for everyday cycling in the region. And yes, I think the investments will also grow on this field. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Axel. Si os parece, Patricia, ¿te parece? ¿Puedes intervenir?
Yes, at the level of the metropole in France, there is a plan for transport that is called Plan Local du Développement. PDU is the short term of the plan, and there are all kinds of transport modes in there, and it concerns also bicycle transport. But I think building the bicycle lines inside the city is rather the municipality itself doing it. I know that this has developed quite a lot in Lyon in the last decade. Yeah, but it's not only the intermunicipal level taking care of it.
Perfecto. ¿Y puedes incidir un poco más en el caso del área metropolitana de Lyon?
Yes, I thought I have done this, that they have for this area of the metropole, they have a transport document, strategic document regarding transport, and there they also have strategy about cycling in there. It's called PDU.
Perfecto, gracias, Patricia. Si queréis, Tomás o Reinar Genke, en orden que queráis intervenir.
Yes, we do have a dedicated department for sustainable mobility, for cycling mobility. This is also a tradition we have for a couple of years. We had a project called Bike and Business, where we worked together with companies to make them aware of the possibility to cycle to work by encouraging them to provide for showers in the offices, so that people could cycle to work and then change to their tie and suit. But nowadays we are going beyond that. We are planning a cycle highway network, and this is supposed to offer cycling as a serious alternative to commuting by car or by train. We found out that about half of the commuters live in a distance of some 15 kilometers from their workplace. And this is a distance that is very good for cycling if you use the modern pedelecs or electrocycles. We are developing a network of direct routes, east to west, north to south, all going to Frankfurt, but also used in the other way from Frankfurt to, for example, Darmstadt, where I live. And this is not just a project, this is being implemented, and the first part is already in use. And in the chat, I have just typed the web link where you can find details about that.
So from Stuttgart, I can report that we're also following the bicycle highway hype that we see all over Germany right now. So we furthermore have one chapter dedicated to bike transport in our strategic regional mobility plan. And furthermore, we are responsible for sharing systems because we see bikes as an important means of transport to solve the last mile problem from the metro back to where people live or work. So we provided sharing stations where you can rent a bike and give it back, not in the same municipality, but you can also cross municipal boundaries and give it back in the neighboring city or elsewhere within the region.
Perfecto, gracias. Os traslado la siguiente cuestión. La realiza Laura y pregunta, está dirigida a Patricia por un lado y a Reinhard Henke. Y la cuestión es si se están tomando medidas y actuaciones en relación al cambio climático de manera coordinada, y estas actuaciones que se están llevando a cabo, cómo se están llevando de manera que se respete la autonomía local de los municipios. Reina, si quieres comenzar tú.
Shall I start? Reinhard, okay, yes, okay.
I think it was a question direct to me. Also there we have a department for climate and environment. This is a part of an integrated part of our land use plan. A bit complicated to explain, but as I pointed out in my presentation, our plan sets the framework and it respects the autonomy of the municipalities. So the real climate change, climate adaptation measures are within the responsibility of the municipalities or the other regional stakeholders. However, what I think is important that our regional land use plan has dedicated information about, how is that called in English? Kaltluftschneisen. This is the open space that has to be kept open to provide for the access of fresh air, cold air from outside to the inner cities. And there you have to take care not to block these pathways for the fresh air. And this is a part in our land use plan. This could be a long story, a long answer, but I think this is it for the moment.
I'm not quite sure of what kind of measures you mean that wouldn't respect the autonomy of municipalities. So there are, like I had explained before, there are much more municipal competences in France that are upscaled to the intermunicipal level due to the small size of municipalities. And for example, environmental protection is one of the competences that is carried out at the level of the metropole, and also land use planning. So for example, to fix green spaces, that is something that is done on this intermunicipal level, but it is done in dialogue with the municipalities, where first of all, many of the members in the council are also members of municipal councils, and there are also ways to include the mayors of the municipalities in the discussion process. So yeah, it's closely related together.
Gracias. Si queréis contestar a alguno del resto de panelistas. Adelante.
I think both levels have to do their own work around climate protection and working with the climate change. So there is opportunity and work enough on both levels. On the regional level, we always started in the 90s with a regional climate change or climate protection program. We established a climate protection agency, and we have also, the Hanover region has a climate program, and in all the tasks where the region is responsible, public transport, regional planning, waste management, and all those cases are also regarding the own buildings and so on. So there's a duty for all those to take care of climate protection and work with the consequences of climate change. So I don't think there is a conflict between the regional level and the local level. There's enough to do for the municipalities on their level to do their own actions, but it's important to have also those actions on the regional level to take municipalities with us, and also to offer services regarding climate protections. And so some years ago, we had a year of climate protection, but a lot of good or best practice examples all over the region. So I think Hanover region is very good in working with the challenges of climate change. And on all the fields where we are responsible, it is a duty to take initiatives and take care of those challenges.
I would like to add that especially climate adaptation is a field where regional cooperation pays off. We see that a lot of the small municipalities in Stuttgart region see the need that they have to do something to improve the climate change adaptation, but they do not really know how to do this. So we provide the evidence, we provide database, and we even provide plans for the smaller municipalities that show how to deal with those very important issues. I think that that's a very good example, and an example with high political relevance, and a good example for the cooperation between the regional level and the municipality. So we really meet the needs of the local administration and can really give some support for them.
Gracias. La siguiente cuestión la plantea Roger en cuanto a instrumentos de participación ciudadana y pregunta en los casos alemanes si únicamente, aparte de los instrumentos puntuales vinculados a los planes estratégicos, existen otros instrumentos de carácter permanente como consultas. Y para el caso de Bolonia, pregunta si la ciudad metropolitana ha absorbido las competencias e instrumentos de participación ciudadana de la provincia. Si queréis, de acuerdo al caso alemán. Axel, si quieres intervenir.
I did not get the question, but
Te la repito si quieres. El asistente lo que plantea es que tanto en Lyon existe el Consejo de Desarrollo de Participación y en los casos alemanes considera que bueno, solo existen instrumentos puntuales vinculados a planes estratégicos y territoriales, y lo que pregunta es si existen otros instrumentos de carácter más permanente como órganos o consultas.
Okay, I understand. Not constantly, but in all larger projects of public transport, regional planning, waste services. So we have panels and public participation, but there is not a general body always involved. But people, for example, in all our committees and in the council, people have the right to ask politicians and administration. So this is a part of participation, but most participation is in the special projects, for example, public transport, regional development, and so on.
It is very much the same in our situation, maybe even worse in a way, because our authority is not focusing on interacting with the general public. We are mainly interacting with other authorities. So the public consultations are limited to the real planning procedure. But this is then quite intense, because when we make a plan, this plan has to go to public hearings, and these public hearings are quite extensive, and many people, thousands of people participate, contribute, and all these contributions have to be taken into account. Well, but this is real life, daily life of German planners, I think.
Perfecto, gracias. Por último, queríamos realizaros una pregunta desde la organización a todos los ponentes, porque he visto que Alessandro ya no se ha tenido que ir y no podrá contestar al caso de Bolonia. Queríamos trasladaros la siguiente cuestión, ¿no? Queríamos que nos transmitierais qué opinión tenéis sobre el caso español dentro del contexto europeo. Si queréis empezar, Tomás, Kit, por ejemplo.
Yes, I try. I know from our friends in Metrex, from conferences in Barcelona and in the Basque countries, that they have been really keen to bring a new approach into the urban-rural relationship, and I think they have some interesting approaches to the cooperation, especially I think in Barcelona, where the metropolitan governance is really strong, and I think has also some interesting combinations of strategic planning, of the operation of parts of the infrastructure. So I think that this is one of the leading cases that we know from Spain, if that answers your question.
I am sorry, I have not enough information and no direct contact to Spanish colleagues and cases, so I cannot give an answer to that question. Sorry.
Not easy to answer because unfortunately I'm missing the face-to-face experience of coming to Valencia. But as Thomas Kivitz said, we sometimes met people from Barcelona. I had the opportunity and the chance to visit Barcelona a couple of times. And I think what the colleagues there seem to be doing, I mean, I'm not sure whether I understand that all, seems to be very much in line of our own approach, because the area Metropolitana de Barcelona, as far as I know they are called this way, This seems to be one of these authorities, organizations that take care of a functional urban region, not just for the city of Barcelona, but for the, I think it is some 25 or so municipalities around them. And I was quite impressed when I visited the region and when I heard the colleagues speaking that, well, this is just an impression and not based on any further investigation or so. Sorry that I cannot be more constructive here.
Gracias. Patricia, no sé si quieres comentar algo.
Well, so far I also had the impression that Barcelona is a exceptional case in Spain, and so far as I know, there is no national framework about legislation about metropolitan regions in Spain, but I don't know how it's organized in Valencia. So maybe we can say more after tomorrow, after hearing the national panel, and we will know the details.
Efectivamente, os quería trasladar la invitación a mañana para que podáis conocer más el caso español. Y nada, doy la palabra a Andreas para que finalice con lo que él considere.
Bueno, panelistas, que os agradezco mucho este enorme y encomiable esfuerzo que habéis hecho. Creo que vuestra información y vuestras experiencias serán un valioso input para impulsar el avance de la gobernanza metropolitana. Hay al menos una voluntad anunciada hoy por el presidente de la Generalitat Valenciana de empezar un proceso legislativo en esta materia. Os hemos escuchado con atención, he tomado apuntes como un loco de todo lo que se ha dicho, que ha sido muy interesante, y a la inversa, ¿no? Como en este tipo de eventos estamos en un proceso de aprendizaje colectivo, es una relación mutua. Os invito mañana, si podéis, en las posibilidades de vuestra agenda, participar como oyente, ¿no? Para saber y conocer más estas experiencias, ¿no? En España para hacer algo en la cuestión metropolitana, sea a través de planificación estratégica, otras políticas públicas o diseños institucionales, ¿no? Como hay bien avanzado y bien consolidado en el área metropolitana de Barcelona. Y constato que hay un desconocimiento por vuestra parte sobre el caso de España. En este sentido, podemos seguir colaborando yo con vosotros para ofrecer más información sobre lo que es la situación actual de la gobernanza metropolitana en España y también la planificación territorial. Nos hemos ya conocido más de cerca a través de este evento y si tenéis alguna demanda para saber más sobre el caso de España, aquí a mí personalmente me tenéis siempre a vuestra disposición. En este sentido, os agradezco de nuevo todo el esfuerzo y doy por finalizado el día de hoy. Muchísimas gracias. Hasta pronto.